Question number 3. What would you do differently next time? Normally, the question is, what went well? What did you do wrong? See, most people would think, what would you do wrong? But if you do that, now all of a sudden, you've closed them off. You've closed them off, and they are either going to go into self-castigation, or when you're focusing on something they did wrong, now they're going to become defensive. It's either going to be self-castigation or defensiveness. Either way, his mental posture is this. And you can't get anything done this way, can you? Anybody here ever had a conversation with both people are like this, you and the other person? I don't want to hear it. Don't say anything. You know, everybody's just trying to defend themselves. And that's why communication, and definitely not connection, will ever occur. When you ask, what do you think was the best part? What would you do differently next time? 9 times out of 10, he's going to say way more stuff than I ever would have said. And if there is something that I would recommend that he changes, now it's about the act, not the person. Big difference. We're now evaluating this, not this. See, we can talk about this. I'm okay with that. I understand sometimes I do well, sometimes I don't do well. But when you talk about me and the person that I am, now I might get offended. And because of the way our emotions work, I have an inborn responsibility to preserve myself. And that means my emotions, that means my reputation, that means the power that I perceive myself to have in the room, the credibility that I have. So if I just come here and just tear him up, or any one of you, let's say we're in a meeting, or if we're if we're spouses and we're in front of our children, or in front of our neighbors, or if we're in front of our church members or whatever, and I just tear into you, all of a sudden now you have to defend yourself because of the situation that I put you in. So now I guarantee that we're going to have it out. I guarantee it. All because of not doing these little things. One of my friends, Chef Jeff Henderson. Anybody here watch the Food Network? Has anyone here ever seen Chef Jeff's show? Yeah, he's an awesome man. He has a book called Cooked, where he used to cook crack cocaine in the streets of San Diego. Became one of the biggest drug dealers in the country. 19 years old. He was a multi-millionaire. All cash, of course. Like, I'm putting my crack on credit. How do you get a receipt? He got busted, went to jail for 10 years, and he ended up cooking in the prison. He went from cooking crack on the streets to being the chef in prison, and he learned the love for the culinary work, and he ended up going to he learned how to cook so well, he just trained himself how to cook, and he ended up cooking at the Bellagio, being the first African-American head chef at the Bellagio. That was an accomplishment that no one else had ever done. And he still has not been formally trained. Well, he teaches now young people, how to, whether they're in trouble or whether they just plain have a love for cooking, he works with them. And one of the things I've observed as I watched him is he has a phrase, then a statement that he uses called big ears, little mouth. Folks have big ears, little mouth. What that means is always be ready to listen more than you speak. By the way, do you see how I just edified that information? I told you all the stuff about Chef Jeff. I didn't just say folks have or my friend Jeff said big ears. I said Food Network. I talked about his whole story. He was actually highlighted by Oprah Winfrey. He was on the show, and then in her life class, she talked about him, as a matter of fact. He's done a lot of great things, but now what I've done is I've just edified my expert. Now what he says has more value to you. It's not just got some guy named Jeff. See how that makes sense? That's what you want to be doing, edifying your experts. One of my coaches, Jonathan Sprinkles, said this, and Jonathan is a guy who's done this and this. He's done Presentation Power, or James Malinchak. Secret Millionaire. Anybody see that? Yeah, well, that guy's one of my coaches, and this is what he said. See, now you're attaching something that is known to something that is unknown, and that's what gives it value. So, big ears, little mouth. What would you do differently next time?
Be more relaxed.
Okay. And fourth question, are you open to suggestions?
Absolutely.
So I wrote down a couple of notes. First of all, I think you did a lot better than you think you did. I noticed something. Your nerves, when you get a little nervous, you get what I call happy feet. You kind of do this little thing here. You do great at a country western bar. Okay? You always want to make sure that you keep your feet planted. You only want to use motions that have meaning. Use motions that have meaning. Now, I am not saying to stand still, but what you want to avoid is doing the do-si-do, or what's the most common one that we see? Pacing like a tiger in a cage. Not good. Well, Chris Rock does this, but when he does it, he'll tell his joke, and then he'll pause and deliver his line. Then he'll go back to it, and then pause and deliver his line. That's what he does as his shtick. You don't want to do that because you're not telling quick stand-up jokes. Now, this is a concept that I want you to understand. When you are on stage, you can still implement what they call in theater, always be collecting, blocking. This is what they call blocking. This is where you utilize one part of the stage for one thing. You utilize another part of the stage for another. When I tell the story in my keynote, tying yesterday and today, you notice how I say I lived in a one-bedroom apartment above my grandmother with my two sisters in South Central Los Angeles. And then my father saw this, and he took me with him. See how we're transitioning? And then what I normally do when I tell stories about my father is I'll come out here. So now we've separated. We've created a little timeline. You notice how every single time my mom, what does she do? She what does she do? And then the following Thursday, she took put in and then look at how much detail you remember. That was 24 hours ago, and you still remember these details. Bill, is it important for people to possibly remember some details of what you're teaching? You think that might lead to some more sales? If people can remember your stuff versus walk away and forget it? Do you think it might help your product sales and help what you're doing? Yeah, this is how you tell, because people think in images. And so what you have to do is utilize the stage. Now, if you're going to go through these different, if you're going to tell your points, you can possibly tell your points here. Give one point here. First start here and then go here and then come here. Or you can tell one in the audience. You don't have to just always stay on stage. You can utilize all of the different places in the room. Word of caution, when you step off stage, always take a quick look down. And whenever I go off stage, I tend to go real slow the first couple of times. So you can't even tell how slow that is, but it's almost like I'm doing a squat in a way because I want to make sure that I hit the ground. I point my toe. I lead with this toe. I'm just trying to keep you safe, okay? I want you to be safe. I always lead with this toe so that I can kind of pad the fall because I'm not quite sure how it is.